Hey there, you guys. This is Christian,
And this is Claudia.
and we've been playing Sea of Stars for kind of a little bit now. Wanted to just touch on a little bit real quick on our first impressions, our first thoughts, things we liked, things we didn't like. Overall, I kind of just want to talk about this game because I feel like a lot of people are talking about this game through kind of a similar lens. A lot of people are talking about this game as as a nostalgia piece, as a game that holds inspiration for things like Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy 16. So I want to talk specifically with Claudia today about what Sea of Stars is to her as someone who has no nostalgia for 16-bit era games, as someone who wasn't there for those classic times of RPG, just to see if Sea of Stars is a game beyond just the nostalgia. So real quick, before we get into the actual game, the story, the gameplay, anything like that, Claudia, how have you experienced Sea of Stars? How have you liked Sea of Stars? Any initial thoughts?
Sea of Star has been a really fun game to play. Like, one of my favorite things about it has been kind of the use of the character Garl. Yeah. I don't know. The way that he's used is kind of like he carries the game in a way that it makes it very relatable to the player. In a way that is like, it carries a lot of the story with him, you know? Being a character that had to struggle so much to be part of this world where it was meant for heroes, you know?
Right.
And because he doesn't have those type of, the same strength, the same powers, you know? And he's living in a world where he wasn't encouraged to ever learn how to fight or learn how to defend himself or even be a part of any of this storyline. And through his hard work and trying to learn as much as he can about whatever he thinks is going to help him the most, then he made himself essential.
Right. He definitely forced himself in.
Yeah, and in a way that they needed him in, you know? I don't know. But to the other heroes, they had to train hard, but their success was
a given. It was gonna happen.
Yeah, it was gonna happen no matter what. Their success was expected, and it was going to happen. And with him, from the very beginning, you see how much traumatic things he went through, and all the hard work that he had done, and how it got dismissed and belittled, and then be like, get out of here, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know, if that happened to me, that would break me, you know?
Oh, yeah, I would never want to join these people.
Yes,
you know?
I would not be a positive person after that. And this kid is very, I don't know.
Cheerful and energetic still for God knows why.
Yeah. And I don't know, he's just
a standout character.
Yeah.
Definitely, and one of the things that I think specifically for the characters, because when I watch the trailers, right, there's obviously Zell and Valerie, the two main characters, who stand out immediately just because they look cool. So I watch the trailers and everything like that. Those are the two characters I always looked at because they're obviously the main characters. And Garl, now that I mentioned it, was always just in the background. But when you actually play the game, how much that character really shines through as definitely a breakout star in this game is something that I didn't expect. You get what I'm saying? So I think that's where a lot of what the thoughts that I had going into this game have completely changed as I played the game. You know what I'm saying? Because I went in expecting a Chrono Trigger-esque story where the character is the main focus, the main character. But this game being definitely more world focused and also kind of side character focused. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think it's important for one of us to, you pick your character, you're either the girl or the guy, you're one of the heroes, right?
Right.
But then I feel like Garl is very representative of the people, that, an actual player.
Right.
But when you play, you want to be main character, you know? That's why they have the main character vibes. You want to play as the main character, you want to be part of the story. But then he that gives depth to the story.
Definitely. He has a lot more dimension and layer to what would be just a very traditional, heroes are blessed and born into like heroism, and then do their training, go on to beat bad guy, etc. Having Garl is definitely like a monkey wrench in what is a very expected story.
Yeah, and then another thing that I really love about the game is the way that they use their music, their pictures, their drawing style, everything in the game that they use adds to the story of the game itself in a way or another, even like if it's little things that you don't notice, like the way they put the background in a picture, or the way that their demeanor changes in a little dialogue, or just very little things, that everything kind of feels like it has a lot of purpose in the game. Like no matter how little it is, like a background, a sound, like nothing just goes like for the purpose of being there. Everything adds onto the game.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of a lost art in games nowadays, where I think a lot of times music in games today is just music for music's sake. It's just like you need to have some song in the background. And like when I think back at like memorable music, it's always like earlier games. It's not really like more modern era. Like Final Fantasy 16 was probably the most memorable modern era like soundtrack I ever heard, and that like elevated moments that otherwise would just be like cool. It's the fact that before it was a damn near necessity, because you're working with limited technology. You needed music to really like help drive home the story. Versus nowadays, for example, like I can name off the top of my head 6 games that I played this year where the music is irrelevant to the game. Remnant 2, Tears of the Kingdom, Armored Core 6. A lot of games that just music isn't even like paid attention to. You get what I'm saying? Versus back in the day, music was a necessity. And them, obviously they don't need music, but they utilized it in a way to make it drive home their story more, if that makes sense. Let's jump into the story real quick, because we kind of like touched on it, but we haven't really addressed like what is the story of this game for people who haven't played the game. The story, I mean, it's simple, but it's different, I think. So the way the world works is there's these things called dwellers, or these giants that kind of like position themselves throughout the world, and if left unchecked, they can eat too much and end up destroying the world. So then a group of Solstice warriors come together to like defeat each dweller. And when you take place of the game, as either Zale or Valerie, one of the Solstice warriors, you're down to just the one last dweller, which is they pretty much took out all of them, and there's one last dweller, which is Valerie and Zale's job to go take out that last dweller. And then Garl just kind of fits his way in as being a friend of Zale and Valerie, and then they kind of go on their journey. But there's definitely a lot, like, obviously that's like the very surface story, but there's a lot of like little like under the cut things that are not being said. Like you have these two like mentor type characters that are obviously guiding Zale and Valerie, but they're definitely leaving a lot unsaid as far as like what the truth of like their community is and what the truth of these dwellers are. And obviously there's like they leave it obvious that there's so much more than just what's been told. You know what I'm saying? And then as far as gameplay works, the gameplay is different, and it's again the gameplay takes inspiration from a lot of different things. But overall, they definitely found a way to make it its own, where like there's a lot of different mechanics that go on to like this specific turn-based style of RPG, where each character gets to take their turn, and you select the menu of options to do. But how you choose your like what's the best decision with your character right now is definitely different than I think a lot of other games, where usually in other games you choose like if they're water, you use electricity damage or whatever, versus this game is very much like they're gonna do a specific action, and if you want to stop that action, you have to hit the right like nature of the ability, whether it be like a blunt hit, a sharp hit, a soul hit, or like a lunar hit. But yeah, and then knocking down those like specific symbols would help prevent like a big move from like devastating your team, as well as like sucking up the little like magic orbs around the side that like add like little boost to your attacks. Stuff like that I feel like makes turn-based RPG a little bit more active and a little bit more engaging for I think people who aren't really used to turn-based RPGs.
No, I really like the turn-based style, like the way it plays, and like I've played it before, but I'm not too familiar with it because I've never liked it enough to keep playing games that are turn-based. It's like off-putting to me a little bit. Like if a game is turn-based, it's already like, I don't
Right.
know. I'm not really gonna. I know that I'm not gonna finish this game or like play it for much longer, you know.
Yeah.
But with this one, like, I found it to be a little more fun, and I don't know. I like how you could like block if
Yeah.
you hit like if you hit the right thing at the right time. Like you work on your timing, you could block, or you could kind of like double hit if you do the right parry, and it like reminds me more of like games that I like to play.
Yeah, like
better.
a more action style of game.
Yeah, so there is turn-based, but there's a lot more action, like more involvement maybe.
Yeah.
But not involvement in a way where like I don't understand what's going on, because I know there's turn-based games that are like you do need to be very involved, but then I don't really understand and I get lost in like, wait, what's the right thing to do? So this one is like very involving, but not too difficult in the gameplay itself, but difficult in the way that the matches are challenging.
Right.
You know, but not the figuring out of the gameplay. So it makes it fun just trying to figure out how to defeat a specific boss instead of like, how the hell do I play this game, which has been off-putting in the past to me.
Right.
But this one's very inviting and like, and it wasn't just inviting like in the gameplay, but also to RPGs in general. Like,
Right.
because it's very simple, but it's very detailed still, and
Right.
it's very fun to like navigate the world and like a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah, that's another thing too about like the navigation of this game. Definitely feels a lot more lively than I think a lot of like games that it takes inspiration from. Where typically in like the 16-bit era, you'd have just like a large like grass field, and then you just kind of walk from one town to another town, and that was kind of the navigation. Versus this game, you're like going around tunnels and you're like solving patterns to like, you know, platform from one area to other areas. There's like little like falling platforms that you might fall into like another like level of the map. Stuff like that I feel like they definitely took a lot of time in figuring out their like level designs and their map designs. Stuff like, again, it just makes the game a little bit more fun to like get from point A to point B, instead of just like, oh, if I want to continue the story, I have to get there. So just like, you know, get there. You get what I'm saying? Like it makes the journey a lot more fun.
Something you were talking about yesterday when you were doing one of the battles, you should actually talk about this one. You said that it was interesting how you it didn't really told you much about specific fights. You just kind of had to figure out what you were doing wrong.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. So like the trial boss fight or whatever, where the boss has like a sword where so he has like the main, you know, boss where you want to deplete his life bar so that you can win the fight. But every time you strike him, he would do a counterattack with his sword. So in order to like, you know, not get counter hit, you have to destroy the sword first and then, you know, fight the boss. But it's one of those things that I wasn't paying too much attention to at first, so I just kept getting, you know, wiped out in one swing. But once I paid attention to just, you know, taking out the sword, then focus on him, then going back to the sword, then taking him out, right? Like definitely like is something that adds, again, more depth to like the mechanics. And they definitely make you like use all the things, right? Like you want to make sure that you're trying to get that extra hit in with timing it. You want to make sure you're dodging as much hits as you can. They also have that thing where like, you know, the moon icon will pop up, but I don't have enough MP to do my moon attack, so now I gotta just break. Like I know he's gonna do the big hit. How do I prepare myself for that big hit so I don't just outright die? You know. So yeah, like a lot of like the battle mechanics, I think is very engaging
and fun.
And I think too, like when you say like it's like inviting, it's true because it's like, so like let's say like a Final Fantasy game, they won't outright tell you what the boss's weakness. You kind of just have to throw everything at it and then like see what happens. There's a lot being unsaid in those style games. Versus this game, they're telling you everything. Well, at least as far as like what this enemy's
No, they
weak
give
against.
you the information that you need to know, and then they're like, well, with this information that you have, figure out how you could beat this specific boss.
Yeah.
And every person you fight is not gonna be the same.
Right.
But you have all the information you need to figure it out.
Yeah, now you just gotta actually like, accomplish it, and then that's another challenge on its own because, do you have the MP to do the right move? Or like sometimes they'll have like the 6 moons, so I'm like, oh shit, now I gotta do the boomerang hella times, and I gotta land it, or else they're gonna devastate me. Like I ran into a fight where there was like this worm, and if I didn't like stop the worm from doing his, or I don't think it was a worm, it was like a caterpillar or a scorpion or something. But I didn't stop the bug.
What?
I don't know what it was. Some
a
bug.
worm, a caterpillar, or a scorpion? Do you know how different those things are from each other?
I was fighting the bug monster, and every time his little symbols would pop up, it meant that if he was going to complete this move, he ends up summoning like more monsters out. And there would be multiple times where I didn't have enough MP to do the move to like kill it. So then like one, of this bug would end up being like 5 of them, and then I'm outnumbered, and now it's like, because then they keep summoning more, so it's like, damn, I got to put an end to this, so stuff like that. I think the game definitely could ramp up as far as like difficulty goes, as far as like being engaged. Overall, I'm having a fun time with Sea of Stars. I really like this game. It's delivered on more ways than I expected it to. So real quick, I do want to ask you one thing, because overall, again, like I don't want to say my like issue with people talking about this game right now, because it's not an issue by any means, because this game does take inspiration from things like Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy 6, etc. I just definitely think this game is more than just like a nostalgia piece. You get what I'm saying? This game is more than just we want to capture those games. They're definitely doing it, but also like completely reinvigorating it and making it their own in a way that's more modern for like people who don't get into RPGs. That's my take. I want to see, like, for you, do you think you can recommend this game to someone who isn't into RPGs, and do you think that they would get into it?
Definitely. Okay. It's a really simple enough game where like it looks fun and it looks inviting and it looks, oh, what is this? And it's something that you're gonna have fun getting into it. Now, I don't know, like, how, I don't know, because I never recommended it, but
right.
I feel like people would like it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a hard game to not like. It gives you everything to love it.
Yeah.
Like, it's very easy to love the game.
Especially Garl.
Yeah.
Garl carries.
Yeah, he carries, like, the whole... I don't know.
At least so far from what you played, he's definitely the huge standout, and it was like almost immediate. Like immediately, you're like, we like this guy. And what was really cool too, before you even meet Garl, right? Like there's that scene where Valerie and Zell are talking about like something they did in their past to one of their friends.
Yeah. And right away we're like, what did you do to him?
Yeah. Who's the third one? Like what happened?
Yeah. And then and we already were like.
Invested in whoever this mystery character was.
Yeah, because the way that they were talking, I'm like, oh my god, you done messed up. What did you do to this person? What did you, like, we already put them up for, like, you're the bad guy. What do you do to Garl?
And now it's like, we must protect Garl with our lives.
We're like, what the fuck did this kid do to him?
Well, yeah, anyways, that's Sea of Stars. Nothing else you want to add?
No, nothing really. I don't know.
I think that's good for overall just first impressions.
Because we're not that far into the game at all by any means. We just started playing, so who knows what else we have.
Yeah, where else the game might go.
We haven't gone to the waterfall.
I will say for Sea of Stars, it is available on PlayStation, Xbox, PC, Nintendo Switch. So there's very little reason not to play the game. It's also available on PlayStation Plus if you have that. It's also available on Xbox Game Pass if you have that without having to outright buy it. It's available on Nintendo Switch and PC to purchase. And there's a demo too. Like a lot of people, if they're wondering whether or not they should pick it up, there's a demo that they can try that definitely like highlights a lot of the things that makes this game good. But one of the things that I also say about the demo is because I played the demo and I'm still surprised by the game, which is weird because like I played the game before playing the game, and then playing the game is from the actual start is definitely a huge tonal shift from the demo.
Because of the story?
Because the story, yeah. Because they kind of drop you in the middle of some random like story piece.
Right. And
you don't know any of the characters. Like again, like Garl didn't stick out to me because I didn't. The moments weren't really like there with him, Mm-hmm. But now that I'm experienced the moments, I can't wait to like see where this game goes. But yeah, Sea of Stars, we recommend it. Give it a shot.
Bye.